As I'm sure many of you know, I'm Charlene Nichols from the Alumni Association. We've been hosting these Tiger Tuesdays since for the past month or so, since everything else that we like to do got shut down. It's a great way to reach out to our Tiger community virtually. So we're pleased to have you here, and we're very pleased to welcome our special guest today, Eric Deneault from the Institute of Applied Technology. As a reminder, for those of you who have not been on these calls before, if you can please hold your questions, you can chat them to me and we'll try to ask them as we go. Or if you want to ask it in person, we'll do that toward the end of our half hour here. So again, I'm pleased to welcome you all. And Eric, if you're ready, let's get started.
Yeah, hi all.
Great. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your organization, TEECA, which is the National Championship organization. We're super excited about that. And kind of your Fort Hays story, because you're a Fort Hays graduate. So tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of background before we start talking about specifics.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Eric Deneault, as Charlene mentioned, Associate Professor of Engineering Design Technology at Fort Hays State University in the Department of Applied Technology. I am a three-time graduate of Fort Hays State University. I picked up my undergrad in 2007 and went and taught for 6 years at Southeast of Saline High School near Salina, Kansas, and had the opportunity to get back to Fort Hays State University upon the tragic death of Fred Ruda, and Mr. Kim Stewart moved into the department chair role, and that opened up the drafting position at Fort Hays. And so I took that position in 2013 after finishing my master's from Fort Hays State University, and just finished my 7th year at Fort Hays, and my 7th year as the lead advisor for our TEECA group. And I guess I just want to express how passionate I am about this organization, as I participated in this as a student in my undergrad when Mr. Kim Stewart was in charge of the organization. And I just owe a lot of my success to this particular organization, as it prepares pre-service teachers in technology studies to go out and do an excellent job out in the field. We also have our industrial tech majors join us in this organization. As they get more involved throughout their career with this organization, we find that those industrial tech majors really have a passion for teaching, and many of them in the later half of their career will even convert over from industry into education because of this organization. And so from what I can tell, the records that we have date back to 1986, and I'm not sure who would have been the lead coordinator or the advisor at that time. This is kind of a shared role. As we grow and as we garner more students within this organization, we need more manpower. And so I myself and Mr. Randy Jordan and Mr. Nathan Howard have been working together as a team to provide the greatest opportunity for our students that we can. So it's a great opportunity for our students to network, to get out and see the world, to compete against other universities, D1, D2 schools, and traditionally Fort Hays has done extremely well with this. Going all the way back to 1986 when we won our first national championship in live manufacturing. And so I do have some statistics and some data pulled up here to share with you. Our tradition of success, again, started in 86 and it runs through current, but we are currently sitting on 91 regional championships and 32 national titles over that span. And so pretty impressive as to what we've been able to put together. And our students are known around the nation as being a dominant force. And we're extremely proud of that. Fort Hays is proud of that, and our department is. And we use this as a wonderful recruiting opportunity for getting students here and giving them the most experience that they can get out of their collegiate career.
So when we're talking about winning regional and national titles, can you tell us what kind of competitions are available at these events?
Yeah, so regionals is a little bit different from nationals. Up until about 5 or 6 years ago, you used to have to go to a regional and qualify first place in order to make it to a national event. They kind of did away with that because it was hard for some schools to get to all of the regional events in the fall due to weather and travel and those types of things. So to not have any team be disadvantaged, anybody who wants to qualify for a national competitive event can go to nationals. But regionals has a series of competitions: communications, STEM display, manufacturing, problem solving, teaching lesson, technology challenge, transportation, robotics, and photography. And nationals is a little bit different, but along the same lines. We have communications, educational display, which is a STEM showcase, manufacturing, problem solving, teaching lesson, technology challenge, transportation, VEX robotics, and graphic design. And so there are 9 national competitive events. When I was a student, there were 5 or 6. And so as our programs across the nation evolve, so do the national competitive events. I've been very fortunate this last year to be the National Competitive Events Coordinator for this organization. And so I get to oversee all of these competitive events and get to work with other advisors across the nation with developing these competitions and getting them into the right position to be successful. Certain schools specify or focus on certain competitive events. Fort Hays State University has always tried to do as many competitive events as possible. And so if we can, we're going to compete in all 9. But of course, there are certain schools that will compete in 1 or 2 because that's their bread and butter. Our philosophy is the more that we can get into, the more opportunity we have to be successful. And I think that proved its point this year when we won 5 individual national championships, and then we won the all-around national title for our competitive events. And 3 years ago, our organization decided that we wanted to do an all-around national champion. And so basically we developed a point system where a first place finish in any one of the 9 events would be 3 points towards the all-around. Second place 2 points, and third place worth 1 point. And so the higher you can score, the more podium finishes you can get, the higher point value you're going to have. And Fort Hays finished with 17 points overall for this year's national competitive events, which scored us 17 points. And second place was Purdue University, who came in with 11 points. And so there was a pretty large margin between first and second, and Utah State came in third this year. Now, the previous 2 years, we missed first place by 1 point, and last year we missed first place by 2 points. So it usually is pretty close when it comes down to it, but this year we just had one of the best performances in school history and really knocked it out of the park. I was very proud of my guys. So you asked about, what are the events and what do they look like? Well, the Tech Challenge is an event where it's kind of a quiz bowl style event where you're going to compete against several teams in bracket play, usually a 16-man bracket, depending on how many schools are in attendance. And you work your way through the quiz bowl where they're going to ask you a series of questions. You get X amount of points for a correct answer, and you get subtracted points for a wrong answer. This year, we ended up winning the Tech Challenge, and we defeated Purdue in round 1. We defeated Sunny Oswego in round 2. We beat Old Dominion in the semifinals, and we ultimately took the championship when we beat Brigham Young University in the finals. So it was an outstanding performance by our technology challenge team. VEX Robotics, this is kind of a neat competition. This has really evolved over the years because it never used to have a robotics platform, and now we utilize VEX. So it streamlines things, makes competitive events more on an even playing field, so to speak. And we had 2 teams this year that we brought. My original team, comprised of students from our department, won their 3rd national championship in the last 4 years this year. So that was a huge mark. They were going for a three-peat last year and missed it. They ended up getting 2nd. But what made it all the more better this year is that CAMS reached out to me and asked if Kansas Academy of Math and Science and AMS, the Academy of Math and Science, wanted a place for some of their students to participate in a competitive events with robotics. So we took them in and we brought them with us to nationals, and they worked competitively against my original team. And Fort Hays State University went 1 and 2 at nationals with those 2 robotics team, with my original team winning and the CAMS AMS kids coming in 2nd place, which was pretty amazing considering that this was their first attempt at a nationals. And I got to say, they went 1 and 2 at regionals as well to qualify for the national event. Transportation changes throughout the year, but this has been a competition where we've used drone technology for the last few years. And so this is where they'll compete in a drone competition with obstacles using first-person viewer and autonomous flight control, where they're flying through an obstacle course. And this is a pretty fun competition for our students to participate in. The educational display is new. It's been available for our students as an educational display, but what was new this year is that we were able to incorporate it within the conference at the International Technology, Education, and Engineering Association. And this organization is the parent organization or umbrella for KTEA and TEECA. And so what the students had to do was actually apply through a peer-reviewed process to present their STEM showcase. And they could choose whatever research project they wanted to take, and then they would present this at the conference. And Fort Hays State University went 1 and 3 in this competition, and they did extremely well there. Live manufacturing is a competition where teams are required to set up a live manufacturing run. A majority of this competition is usually done in-house for the manufacturing of all the components and the parts, and then we take those pieces of the manufacturing run to competition, and we set up the live manufacturing run there, and we kind of showcase our skills and talents in manufacturing. Traditionally, we've been very dominant in live manufacturing. This is where a majority of our national titles come from, and this year, Fort Hays State went and they took 1st in live manufacturing, and this was completely done there at the conference. So that was a little different this year, which was more along the lines of what it was like when I was a student, where there were just a few parts and pieces that you brought with you to the manufacturing process, and then you did a majority of the design and the manufacturing plant layout and flow process stuff there. And so this puts a great deal of pressure and stress on our students. It's good for them to experience this. It's very relatable to a real world scenario in live manufacturing. And so for them to take 1st place is kind of expected. And they understand this, and they want to continue to be dominant in this area. Communications is a video commercial skit, typically about 90 seconds in length. And this year they were required to make a video on amazing career opportunities and in instructional and industrial technology and educational technology. And this team ended up getting 2nd, which is very good for us in communications. Brigham Young University is very strong in this competitive event, and they ended up getting 1st, but we were a very close 2nd. And so we were very pleased with this performance. Graphics was new last year, a new competitive event last year. And this year we were tasked with designing the new trophy topper. That's a traveling trophy that goes to the school who wins the all-around national championship. And so our students were able to design that trophy topper that would fit on top of that and then travel from school to school. And so this was kind of a neat design challenge for our students. Problem solving. This traditionally has been like a Rube Goldberg challenge, but the past 3 or 4 years, it's been more of a programming challenge. And Fort Hays is back-to-back national champions in this competitive event. And this year they were to design a restaurant that would deliver food to the tables autonomously and bring the food back, and then take their dirty dishes and take them to the kitchen or back to the cleaning station. And it was completely autonomous. So you'd order your food and it would deliver it and it would pick it back up when you were finished. And so Fort Hays won this national competitive event this year. The teaching challenge is one that's pretty important to us as we're preparing future teachers in industrial technology. And we ended up having a student compete in this. This was the only challenge that we were not able to finish on site due to COVID. And so when we returned home, they were able to record their lesson with a live audience and submit all their materials. And we ended up taking second in the teaching lesson competition. And so again, 5 individual national championships with many runner-ups and third place finishes, and the all-around national championship in those competitive events.
So, Eric, did you happen to bring the trophy topper so we can see it?
Oh, I did not.
Darn.
The trophy is being stored in our wonderful new facility on campus, along with all of our individual awards. And I would encourage anybody to stop by and take a look at our strong tradition of dominance and see all of our awards from the past years. We had to make sure that we had plenty of cabinet space just for all of those awards to be stored in, because there's quite a few of them. And again, I can't take all the credit for this. This is definitely a team effort, and there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and without the support of our local organizations on Fort Hays and Mr. Stewart, department chair, and all the other advisors that participated, it's just a big task, and it eats up a majority of time. It's about 300 service hours a year for each one of us. So it's pretty expansive when it comes to that, but everybody jumps in, everybody gets involved, and we just have a wonderful, wonderful department.
So where can I get one of those autonomous bring you your food and clean up your dishes things?
Well, you'd have to talk to some of our programming guys.
Does it actually like load them into the dishwasher, and can it cook the meals too? Can it do all of that for me? That would be great.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Maybe. We're getting there.
Okay. All right. I'll temper my expectations then. So you talked about robotics a little bit. What do these robots do?
Yeah. So VEX comes out every year with a new national game. And when I say national, this is also international. They're a well-known platform. You can Google VEX, VEX, and you can already see next year's competition. It's been posted. The nice thing about having a VEX platform is they provide you with all the materials and the game pieces that you're needed, and then you build your robot to be the most efficient at whatever the task is. This year's task was to be tower takeover. We were required to stack cubes in a corner as high as we could stack them. We were also required to throw cubes on top of a tower and make them stay there. The robot was one of the toughest builds that we've had to put together, but once we got it together, we realized how similar they were all going to be. So typically the first thing we do when we get the competition is we look at everybody else's robot and see where it is compared to our build. And a lot of times just looking at the robot, you can see where you're going to finish. And we felt pretty confident about where we were. We are currently working at the national level to make our national competitive events a qualifier for Worlds. So VEX has a Worlds Championship. 2 years ago, after our second national title, we got an invite to go to Worlds, even though it wasn't a national qualifier. That's in Kentucky every year. We decided not to go because it's like a week after nationals, and it's just chaotic upon our return and just kind of hard to get to. But we are looking at trying to make that a nationally qualifying event for Worlds, VEX Worlds. But it changes. Every year the robots change, the look's different. We try to keep our national robot put together for a year, and then obviously we need the pieces to build our new one this year. So when we get back in August, we'll tear down our national bot and we'll start rebuilding.
So it's not like BattleBots where you've got like hammers and buzz saws and all that kind of stuff, and you're.
No, it kind of is. You know, though you do have your team against another team, but there's a middle line that you have to stay on your side of the field. You're not supposed to interfere with the other bot or damage the other bot. Accidents do happen. Robots do tip over, and then they can't score any points, and that's kind of the nature of the game. But there are some gray areas there, but you are to be respectful and to try to score your points without affecting how the other team is set up. And so, it's really neat to watch them do driver control and then to switch over to autonomous and run their program. Because their program is 30 seconds hands off, and it's supposed to do these tasks and score these points on its own. And man, we've just been so dominant over the last few years here with 3 titles in the last 4 years.
Right, and that's amazing. We're all very proud of you, and we're getting some comments about congratulations. You guys are doing great work, but we have some questions as well. So. The first one is where are national competitions usually held?
All over. This year we went to Baltimore, Maryland. Next year we'll be in Colorado. The previous year we were in Kansas City, which kind of felt like it was in our backyard. We've been to Wisconsin and Tennessee and California. One of my favorite trips was Baltimore when I was a student. But it just depends. ITEA is located on the East Coast, so we tend to go there more than anywhere else. But that's just because of the venue and reservations and setting everything up. So they're really held all over, and it makes for a wonderful trip for our students. We do quite a bit of fundraising throughout the semester. Of course, finances is always a big deal. Our total trip cost this year was just under $30,000. It is tough to continue to raise the money to get to go to these events, but we always find a way to do it. The students are responsible for, their entertainment, their food, their drinks, and everything else is covered after the fundraising's done. So travel gets to be a pretty big expense. This year it was wonderful partnering with CAMS. They covered part of the cost to go. Because several of their students went. And I didn't even mention this, but we do have about 45 students who participate in this organization. And we took 26 students with 4 advisors to nationals, which was a lot of people to bus to Baltimore. 24, 25 hours on the bus.
On the bus. Wow.
On the bus, yeah.
So what kind of fundraising activities do you do? Is it just looking for donors, or do you do other activities as well?
Yeah. Donors are hard to reach if they're not familiar with who we are and what we do within the Department of Applied Technology. So throughout the year, we'll do some fundraising. We'll clean commercial businesses. We may do a roofing job. We may clean out a garage for a family, and we just work on donations. This last year, we were invited to help clean out a hoarder house, and we got our hazmat suits on, and we went in and we cleaned out a house, and we just take donations. And it's okay to have to work for our funds, but it does become a challenge from time to time to afford the opportunity to take all of our students with us.
Right. So we have some questions that are more, well, here's, I have one question that's more related to competition, and then we have some questions just generally about the applied technology program. So
okay.
What is the approximate cost of these robots that you're competing and not, chewing up with hacksaws or anything?
Yeah, so about $500 will get you set up for a base spot with some additional programming and components to go along with it. The arena is about a $1,500 purchase, and then every year you have to buy the new game pieces or the game elements, which is another $500 a year. So for about $1,500, you can get set up for 1 year for the arena, and then after that, the arena is purchased, and it's an additional $500 for the game pieces. And then we reuse almost all of our pieces for our robots. So if $500 gets us started with a base spot with a few extra pieces, we may invest an extra $500 in some additional pieces. So our robots cost about $1,000 in the field, about $1,500. So all said and done, we're about $2,500 into our robotics program. But every year our students apply for equipment funds through SGA. We've been very fortunate to have some success, and so SGA supports what we're doing. We're spending about $1,000 a year on our robotics program right now through SGA, and this allows us to keep purchasing more materials to make our robots more expansive.
And so do you have to, how often do you have to replace the base robot?
You don't.
Okay.
Sometimes a Cortex will get fried. The static electricity will do them in sometimes on the field. But a Cortex, $50, $60.
Okay.
Not cheap, but once you're set up and running, they're pretty self-sufficient. And like I said, we're pretty frugal, so we make them use as many pieces from last year's bot as they can for next year's bot.
Very good. So I believe that Kim Stewart is on the call, and so if he wants to join in and answer some of these questions too that we've got in terms of the actual applied technology program, Kim, feel free to do that. The first question is, have you seen an increase in students enrolling in your area in recent years?
Yeah, well, so we're 3 years into our state-of-the-art facility, which is phenomenal. We have the newest equipment. We have some of the best professors, and in combination of our recruiting efforts and the facility, we have seen our program grow. We're up above 200 majors at the moment. We'd like to stay there and grow a little bit more. We had a goal of being to 220 majors by 2020. I think it's very feasible. There obviously will be a cap, I believe, or limitation on the amount of students with the amount of trade schools that are available on community colleges and other opportunities that these students have. But we have seen an influx. We're trending upward, which is excellent. So over 200 majors. And we try to recruit very hard. Every year at the beginning of the year, we have, well, a first 40 days event where we have a TEECA awards and welcoming ceremony. And so we welcome all of our new freshmen, we recruit them into our TEECA organization, and we give the awards to all of our national competitive events winners in-house. So we'll make plaques for each individual student to get. We'll call them up. We'll have them talk about their competition in front of our freshman class. And it doesn't take a whole lot of convincing to get a student involved in TEECA if they want to be successful.
So you touched on the new building, and so I want to ask a little bit about that. I think one of my favorite stories about when I took the tour originally of the new building was about the difference in lumber storage. But can you tell us a little bit about the advantages that this new building provides for your program?
Yeah, so it's 58,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. The front half of it has traditional classrooms, what we call kind of our clean space labs, where we have a lot of our computer-aided drafting, our robotics, our plastics, communications. We have our graphics communications lab and a graphics lab in the front half. It's 2-story with a wonderful atrium for students to congregate and study and kind of hang out. And then on the back half of our building, we have more of our traditional shop spaces with manufacturing and wood technology and construction management. We also have a partnership with NCK Tech. They join us for our welding in that area. And the storage that you're talking about is what we've dubbed the Home Depot room. And this is where we store all of our materials for our wood technology and construction management and those types of classes. The space is just wonderful because it allows us more floor space to move around. But then the storage is phenomenal because we used to have to unload it from a loft in Old Davis Hall, and it was dark and dingy and low head height. And so now this is very bright and spacey and easy to get materials in and out of. It boasts large garage doors so we can pull in with material if we need to pick up projects. Each one of the labs was designed just to focus on that specific part of industry. And I couldn't be more pleased with our space. Like I said, we're 3 years in, and I really haven't come across any part of the building that doesn't meet all of our demands, even as technology changes and as we grow.
That's great. That's just amazing. I just love the image of having to like go up into the attic to pull down, a piece of plywood or whatever, instead of, having it all right there in a room that you can easily access. I mean, that just to me was visually very easy to understand the benefits of this new building.
Yeah.
Apart from it just being beautiful and clearly lots of space and great equipment and all of those.
Yeah, very
benefits.
Bright, temperature controlled, just phenomenal. I see somebody says it's disabled accessible, and that is correct. We do have an elevator within this building.
Right. That is also very important for sure. Okay, so another question is, well, there's a statement and then a question. Congrats on the success and the program's sustained excellence. I'm curious, beyond teaching, what jobs are graduates going into? Are there local or regional companies where they can use these skills?
Yes, I'm going to defer to Mr. Stewart. He does all of our internship work, and if he wants to chime in, this would be great.
Well, welcome everybody. I have enjoyed listening to Eric promote our program. We have engineering design technology. We have those students that are going and working for engineering firms. They are part of the design process. Usually they are BIM operators or computer-aided drafting operators. We have those working for Burns & McDonnell, Trans Systems, Black & Veatch, most any engineering firm out there. We have people that are working for, in the design aspect. Construction management for us was added in 2012. We have extensively grown in that area. Started with 2 students, have 75 students in that program right now. All of our students are doing internships. They're required to do an internship for part of their graduation. We will have nearly 40 interns out this summer working for manufacturing firms, engineering firms, and construction companies. So our kids they're getting jobs, getting good jobs, with those companies, and we're pretty proud of what's happening within the department in that respect. About 4 years ago, we started a career fair for the Department of Applied Technology. Had 15 companies. I suspect we will probably have nearly 50 companies this fall, and we tell our kids to dress up a little bit, get their resume dressed up, and be prepared to meet with companies, because we want our kids looking into those companies, and we want those companies looking at our students. And the fall is a prime time where our students get the opportunity to interview for the next summer's internships. It's really ironic how early you have to get after doing these internships. So we're excited about those things.
All right, so Kim, before you go, since you popped in, I know you've been a fixture on this campus for a while, but there might be some people who don't know you. So tell us a little bit about yourself too.
I have been around here for just a little while. I believe I just finished my 23rd year at Fort Hays State University. Before that, I taught at Ulysses High School for 15 years. And of course, about that time, I was back in college here a few years ago, but had an opportunity to come back when Bill Havis had left and went to Clemson. And then I was able to come in into the drafting area and really help move that along with computer-aided drafting. And then, of course, in 2012, was moved into the role of department chair. We've added several faculty members with expertise in manufacturing, and of course, Eric in the drafting area, and Chris Munch with construction management. Dwayne Renfro has been here for a year longer than I have, wood technology. Joe Kretkin is our robotics person, and some of the other manufacturing, and then Kenny Riegler has been our instructional technology and some of the graphics area. But our team has been a great team that we've put together. And Eric alluded to this, but in 2012, we had just over 100 students in the department, 116 or 17, and this last fall we were 208, and then about the same in the spring. So we've really done a great job recruiting. The building has helped with the recruiting process and getting students, but really the program and being able to get students jobs has been probably the biggest selling point, and getting companies involved, coming to the campus, meeting with our students, and then getting them out on internships. Internships really works both ways. It helps educate our students, but then it also helps educate our faculty as well, because we find out really quickly what we're deficient in and what we need to change in our curriculum. And our faculty have virtually changed lessons overnight to make sure that our students are accommodated with what's happening, in the real world out there. So.
Thank you, sir. It's always lovely seeing you too. So Eric mentioned that there are sometimes projects that these students do to help fund their trip to these national and probably regional conferences too. If someone knows of a project, I mean, how do you identify those? And if someone has a lead on something, how would you want them to let you know about those?
Well, usually this is one of our former graduates that knows that we do this kind of thing. They may reach out to us. This year it happened to be just a current student that we had who knew of an individual in town that needed some work done, cleaning out the house, and we were able to go assist them with that. We're pretty picky about where we're headed and what we're doing. We're not in the business of taking care of a lot of projects, but we do just enough to get us the funding that is required to go. So it's kind of hit and miss on some projects. Some years we'll do 3 or 4 projects. Other years we may only do 1. Time always seems to be the issue, and getting 25 students together to go get a job done. But I tell you, when you can get a large group of students together, the projects go pretty quick. And that's really nice to get in and to get out and to help the community. I mean, that's really what this was all about, and then to help us get to our national competitions.
Okay, very good. So one last question that we have on the chat, and then we'll see if anybody else has any other questions, because I know that we are well past our 30 minutes because you guys are so engaging and so many questions coming in. So do you have anything with AR and VR, or does that depend on the parameters of the challenge? And what category would that fall under, if that is a category in the competition?
Well, if we did do that, it would currently fall under problem solving. Maybe a little bit of robotics, but with our VEX platform, it doesn't lend itself to AR and VR capabilities. This is more of an informatics type thing. It's not exactly what we do, But we have seen AR and VR presented at ITEEA, and basically what they're doing with it in our field of study in industrial technology is that they're doing walkthroughs on rendered homes designed on the computer in CAD. In addition, they're using it in manufacturing to look at parts in 3D and to be able to move and walk around these parts. And so it kind of ties into some of our newest technology that we recently purchased, which is our handheld 3D scanner. This is about a $50,000 device that allows us to scan any object in real life and then reverse engineer that object. And so we are trending towards some AR and some VR within the department, but it's so specific right now that we're waiting for it to broaden up a bit.
Oh, cool. I believe that Seth Bunker has a question. I see a hand raised. And if anyone else has questions, please raise your hand either virtually or in real life, and I will try to catch you.
It's kind of funny because, long story short, me and a friend were doing some online cards, or what was it? We were doing trying to play a card game over the phone, and then we had this kind of idea that kind of struck us, and we're like, neither one of us had the know-how how to make it happen, but it was kind of a cool idea. But I kind of curious about if you were doing something like that. Who I get a hold of there at Fort Hays State for that informatics like you're talking about for the AR and VR.
You would probably need to speak with some of our programming experts within the university through informatics. I could get you a list of a few of the programmers that we've been working with. You could also reach out to Dr. Grady Dixon, Dean of the STM. So he might be able to assist you further with that request.
Okay.
And Seth, if you want to just also send an email just to alumni@fhsu.edu, we can also try to, facilitate that communication for you too.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll work.
Thanks for your question.
All right. Thanks.
Welcome.
And Nancy Vogel, did you have a question?
No, but I would like to ask for an update on Bill Havas.
Well, Bill was just recently visiting our program and went through our new facility, and I got the opportunity to meet him. In fact, we took a photo with myself and Mr. Stewart and Mr. Havas as kind of a generational CAD photo, which was kind of fun. It was a great experience for me. I didn't have the luxury to know Bill as an undergrad, so I'll let Mr. Stewart elaborate a little bit more on his visit.
Pam and Bill are doing great. I know they have several grandchildren. Of course, they live in the Clemson area. I think both of them are nearing retirement, and both of them have set up scholarships, for students at Fort Hays State University, which we are greatly appreciative of. With Bill and Pam, but they're doing great.
Thank you. And it looks like the tigers are roaring out there on campus.
Absolutely. Do we have any other questions? I don't believe I'm seeing any. So one suggestion that we had was to have everyone who is a graduate of the Applied Technology program to wave and acknowledge that you are here. So, I mean, I'm not, but everyone wave. It's great to see all of you. All right, so I think if we have no further questions, I want to certainly thank our guest, Eric Deneault, and our extra special guest, Kim Stewart, for joining us today, and of course, all of you as well. Next week, we have Barrick, who is the director of the Sternberg Museum, talking about the reopening of the museum, which is happening this week, as well as what they've been able to do in terms of programming throughout this pandemic. The following week, we will have Curtis Hammocky joining us. As you know, there are some potential changes for the upcoming schedule and for all sports this upcoming year. So he'll be on to give us the latest and greatest news about that on the 16th. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our guest speakers, and we look forward to hopefully seeing many more of you again next week and the weeks to come as we continue to provide Tiger Tuesday updates for you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time. Thank you.